Cora thought hitting rock bottom meant being evicted by her cheating boyfriend 30 minutes before the ball dropped. She was wrong. Rock bottom was freezing to death in an alleyway with a broken heel and 3 men circling her. But salvation didn't come with a halo. It came in a bulletproof Rolls Royce. Seok Namgung needs a wife to secure his empire. Cora needs protection and revenge. The deal was simple. 6 months of pretending to love the most ruthless man in the city in exchange for her ex's total destruction. But when the fake kisses start feeling too real and the bullets start flying, Cora realizes that the safest place in New York isn't the penthouse. It's in the arms of the devil himself. The sound of the door slamming wasn't just a noise. It was a physical blow that vibrated through the soles of Cora's feet. The lock clicked shut with a finality that echoed in the hallway of the luxury Upper East Side apartment complex. Cora stood there, staring at the brushed mahogany wood, her breath hitching in her throat. She was wearing nothing but a slip of a silver sequined dress and strappy heels that were designed for sitting in VIP booths, not standing on freezing corridor carpets. "Marcus, please!" she cried out, her voice cracking. She banged her fist against the wood. "My coat, my phone, just let me get my things." "Get lost, Cora!" Marcus's voice came through the door, muffled but dripping with the venomous indifference that had been slowly poisoning their relationship for months. "Vanessa is here." "You're killing the vibe. Go find another charity case to sponge off of." "Sponge off of?" Cora gasped, the indignity burning hotter than the tears pricking her eyes. "I paid the rent for the last 3 months while you were finding yourself." Laughter, Marcus's cruel, braying laugh, joined by a high-pitched feminine giggle, was the only response. Then the bass of the music turned up, drowning out her existence. Cora stepped back, her hands shaking. It was 11:30 p.m., December 31st. She had spent her entire savings on this party. She had spent the last 2 years of her life trying to mold herself into the perfect partner for Marcus, a man who treated her love like a disposable commodity. And now she was being discarded like a used napkin 30 minutes before the ball dropped. The elevator ride down was a blur of humiliation. The doorman, a man she had tipped generously for a year, looked away as she walked through the lobby, shivering violently. He knew. Everyone knew Marcus was trash, but Marcus had the family name on the building, and Cora was just the black girl he'd been toying with. She pushed out into the New York City night. The cold hit her like a physical slap. The wind cut through the sequins of her dress, biting instantly into her dark skin. It was snowing, a wet, miserable slush that coated the pavement. Cora wrapped her arms around herself, her teeth chattering so hard her jaw ached. She had no purse, no wallet, no phone, just the humiliating silver dress and a broken heart. She started walking. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't stay in front of that building. The streets were alive with the chaotic energy of New Year's Eve. Drunken revelers in plastic 2026 glasses stumbled past her, blowing noisemakers. Taxis zoomed by, their occupied lights glowing like taunting eyes. She tried to flag one down, but without a coat, she looked like a crazy person. They sped past, splashing dirty slush onto her shins. "Hey, sweetheart!" Cora kept her head down, walking faster. The heel of her left shoe caught in a grate. She stumbled, wrenching her ankle, and the heel snapped. "No," she whispered, the word lost in the wind. "Please, God, no." She limped to the side of a building, leaning against the rough brick of an alleyway entrance to take the broken shoe off. She was freezing to death, literally. Her fingers were numb and her toes felt like blocks of ice. Looking for a party. Beautiful? Cora looked up. 3 men had peeled away from the shadows of the alley. They didn't look like revelers. They wore heavy parkas and had the predatory shifting gaze of wolves finding a wounded deer. "Leave me alone," Cora said, though her voice lacked the strength to be threatening. She held up the broken shoe like a weapon. "I have nothing. Go away." "You got a warm mouth, though," the lead man sneered, stepping closer. He smelled of cheap whiskey and stale smoke. "It's cold out here. Why don't you come warm us up?" Cora backed away, the slush soaking through her stockinged foot. "Don't touch me." The man lunged. Cora swung the heel, catching him on the ear, but he was too heavy, too fast. He backhanded her, the force sending her sprawling onto the freezing wet pavement. The air left her lungs. "Bitch!" the man roared, clutching his ear. "Grab her legs!" Cora kicked out, screaming, but the sound was swallowed by the sudden explosion of fireworks overhead. The sky lit up in greens and golds, mocking her terror. "This is it," she thought, panic seizing her chest. "I'm going to die in an alley while everyone celebrates." Suddenly, the alley was flooded with blinding white light. The roar of a high-performance engine cut through the street noise, followed by the screech of tires. A sleek, matte-black luxury sedan, it looked like a Rolls Royce, but armored, had pulled up to the curb, blocking the alley exit. The back door opened before the car even fully stopped. Two men in dark suits moved with the fluid, terrifying efficiency of liquid death. They didn't shout. They didn't posture. They simply flowed over the attackers. There was a sickening crack of bone, a muffled gurgle, and within 3 seconds, 2 of Cora's attackers were on the ground, unconscious, or worse. The third man, the one who had hit her, was lifted off the ground by his throat. "Please," the thug choked out. The man holding him dropped him. The thug scrambled backward, terrified, and ran for his life. Cora pushed herself up on her elbows, shivering uncontrollably, her vision blurring. She looked toward the car. A man had stepped out from the back seat. He was tall, impossibly tall, and dressed in a suit that cost more than Cora made in a year. A long, black cashmere coat draped over his shoulders, untouched by the snow. He had the kind of face that belonged on a billboard or a warning label. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, and hair blacker than the night, swept back perfectly. But it was his eyes that held her. They were dark, cold and calculating, yet they burned with an intensity that made the freezing air feel suddenly hot. He walked toward her, the snow crunching under his polished dress shoes. He didn't look at the groaning men on the ground. They were beneath his notice. He stopped in front of Cora. He crouched down, disregarding the slush that might ruin his pants. "You?" he said. His voice was deep, a rich baritone with a slight, elegant accent. It wasn't a question. It was a recognition. Cora tried to speak, but her teeth were chattering too hard. "Help." The man's eyes scanned her, from the bruise forming on her cheek to the broken shoe in her hand, to her bare, freezing foot. A muscle feathered in his jaw. "Where is your coat?" he asked, his voice dropping an octave, sounding dangerous. Not at her, but for her. "Threw me out," she stammered. My boyfriend, he—" The man's expression darkened. He reached up and unclasped his cashmere coat. In one fluid motion, he pulled it off, revealing a tailored suit and a crisp white shirt beneath. He draped the heavy, warm coat around Cora's shoulders. It engulfed her, smelling of sandalwood, expensive tobacco, and power. "Can you stand?" he asked. Cora tried, but her twisted ankle gave way. She gasped in pain. Before she could fall, strong arms were under her. He scooped her up bridal style as if she weighed nothing. Cora instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in the warmth of his chest. He felt solid, like a statue made of warm marble. "Seok," one of the bodyguards said, stepping forward. "The meeting with the triad is in 10 minutes. If we are late—" "Cancel it," the man, Seok said. His tone brokered no argument. "Sir, the elders will be furious. It's New Year's." I said cancel it, Seok repeated, his voice like cracking ice. He looked down at Cora, who was shivering against him. We are going home. Turn up the heat in the car. He carried her to the open door of the vehicle. The interior was cream leather and soft amber lighting. He placed her gently on the seat, then slid in beside her. Drive, Seok commanded. As the car pulled away, leaving the violence and the alley behind, the muffled sound of cheering erupted from the city. 10, 9, 8. Cora looked at the digital clock on the car's dashboard. Here, Seok said. He produced a pristine white handkerchief and gently dabbed the blood and slush from her cheek. His touch was surprisingly gentle for a man who had just commanded such violence. "Who are you?" Cora whispered, the warmth of the car finally starting to seep into her bones. He looked at her, his dark eyes locking onto hers. 6, 5, 4. I am Seok Namgung, he said softly. 3, 2, 1. And you, Yagam, he said, using a word she didn't understand but felt in her soul, are safe now. Happy New Year. Cora's eyes rolled back, the adrenaline crash finally taking her, and she slumped against the shoulder of the king of the New York underworld. Consciousness returned to Cora not with a jolt, but as a slow, luxurious ascent through layers of the softest linen she had ever felt. She blinked her eyes open, expecting the peeling paint of the ceiling in the tiny apartment she had shared with Marcus. Instead, she was staring at a minimalist chandelier that looked like a constellation of suspended diamonds. Panic flared in her chest, a sharp, jagged shard of memory from the alleyway, and she sat up abruptly. "Ah!" she hissed, clutching her head. A dull ache throbbed behind her temples, but the sharp agony she expected from her ankle was muted. She looked down. Her foot was carefully wrapped in a compression bandage, elevated on a velvet pillow. She wasn't wearing the ruined silver sequined dress. She was dressed in an oversized button-down shirt made of black silk. It was clearly a man's shirt, smelling faintly of the same sandalwood and dark tobacco that had surrounded her in the car. Cora looked around. The room was cavernous. 3 of the 4 walls were floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a panoramic, godlike view of a snow-covered Central Park and the gray Manhattan skyline. It was morning, the light cold and harsh, but inside the temperature was perfectly controlled. "I'm alive," she whispered, her voice raspy. She swung her legs off the bed, a king-sized platform that seemed to float above the dark hardwood floor, and tested her weight. Her ankle was sore, but bearable. She limped toward the only door in the room. It opened into a bathroom that was larger than her entire old apartment. Gray slate, infinity mirrors, and a sunken tub that could fit 4 people. Cora caught her reflection in the mirror and froze. She looked like a survivor of a war zone. Her hair, usually a crown of tight, proud curls, was matted on one side. A dark, ugly bruise bloomed across her cheekbone where the thug had backhanded her. Her eyes were swollen from crying. "Marcus did this," she said to the empty room. The name tasted like ash. The humiliation of the eviction, the cold, the fear. It all rushed back, replacing her confusion with a cold, hard knot of anger. She washed her face with water from a gold tap, trying to scrub away the feeling of the pavement. When she exited the bedroom, she found herself in a sprawling penthouse living area. It was modern, stark, and masculine. Black leather, chrome, dark wood. It felt less like a home and more like a fortress, a glass castle high above the peasants below. In the center of the room, sitting at a long dining table made of a single slab of obsidian, was Seok Namgung. He was no longer wearing the suit from the night before. He wore a charcoal turtleneck that accentuated the broadness of his shoulders and black slacks. He was reading a newspaper, an actual physical newspaper, the Financial Times, and sipping an espresso. He didn't look up as she entered. "There is aspirin on the counter, and water." Cora froze, tightening the silk shirt around her thighs. "Where am I?" "The penthouse of the Namgung Tower," he said, turning a page. 58 stories up. The elevator requires a biometric scan. You are safer here than inside the vault of the Federal Reserve. Cora walked to the counter, took the aspirin, and drank the water in one long gulp. She turned to face him. The daylight made him look even more striking than the streetlights had. His features were sharp, aristocratic, but there was a roughness to his hands, a scar running along the knuckle of his right index finger that hinted at violence. "You're a criminal," she said flatly. She didn't know why she said it. Maybe because she had nothing left to lose. Seok finally looked up. He folded the newspaper slowly. "I am a businessman, Cora. I own shipping lines, real estate, and technology firms." He paused, his dark eyes boring into hers. "But yes, in the circles that matter, I am called other things." "The men in the alley?" "Will never touch you again," Seok said. It wasn't a reassurance, it was a statement of fact, as casual as discussing the weather. "Come, sit, eat." He gestured to the chair opposite him. A spread of food was waiting. It wasn't just toast and eggs. There were bowls of steaming rice, grilled mackerel, spicy pickled radish, and a rich red stew that smelled of chilies and pork. Cora's stomach growled violently. She hadn't eaten since lunch the day before. She sat down, feeling small in the massive leather chair. "Why?" she asked, picking up a spoon. "Why did you stop? Why did you bring me here? Men like you don't save girls like me." Seok took a sip of his coffee. "Men like me?" "Rich, powerful, dangerous." "You have a prejudice against the wealthy," he noted, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips. "I have a prejudice against men who think people are disposable," Cora shot back, the anger at Marcus bleeding into her voice. "My ex-boyfriend threw me out into a snowstorm because I was killing his vibe. I know exactly what rich men are like." Seok set his cup down. The ceramic made a sharp clink against the obsidian. The air in the room seemed to drop a few degrees. "Do not mistake me for a boy like Marcus," Seok said softly. "Marcus is a child playing with his father's money. I built this city's skyline with my own hands. I do not discard things of value." "And I'm of value?" Cora scoffed, gesturing to her bruised face. "I'm a homeless waitress with a busted ankle." "You are a woman who fought 3 men with a broken shoe," Seok corrected. "You have fire, Cora. I saw it in the alley. Most people would have begged. You swung a weapon." He leaned forward, his gaze intense. "I did not save you out of charity. I do not do charity. I saved you because I require something." Cora stopped eating. She put the spoon down. "I knew it. What is it? You want sex? You want me to run drugs?" Seok let out a short, dry laugh. "If I wanted sex, I could have a line of models out the door in 10 minutes. And I do not deal in drugs. It is a dirty business for desperate men. No." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over his empire. "I need a wife." The silence that stretched between them was heavy. Cora blinked. "Excuse me?" "My grandfather is the chairman of the Gumryong Group," Seok explained, his back to her. "He is old, traditional, and dying. He believes that for me to fully inherit the seat of the dragon, to lead our family without challenge, I must be settled. He has arranged a marriage for me." "So marry her," Cora said, confused. Seok turned. His face was a mask of cold fury. "She is the daughter of the Choi family. They are my rivals. If I marry her, they will slowly poison my organization from the inside. They will take what is mine. I cannot allow that. But I cannot openly defy the chairman while he lives, or I risk a civil war within the syndicate." He walked back to the table, placing his hands on the edge, leaning in close to her. I need a barrier, a distraction, a woman who is so completely wrong for the traditional Korean hierarchy that it will shock the elders into silence, but who is strong enough to stand by my side and pretend to be the love of my life. He looked her up and down. A black American woman, beautiful, defiant, an outsider. You are perfect. Cora stared at him, her mouth slightly agape. You want me to fake date a Mafia lord? Fake engagement, he corrected. For 6 months, until the chairman passes and I secure my hold on the East Coast. In exchange. He pulled a tablet from the table and slid it toward her. I have looked into your Marcus, Seok said. Marcus van der Hoven. His family owns the building you were evicted from. They rely heavily on import licenses for their retail empire. Licenses that I can revoke with a single phone call. Cora looked at the screen. It showed Marcus's bank accounts, his social media, his debts. I offer you 2 things, Cora, Seok said, his voice dropping to a seductive whisper. 1. Protection. You will live here. You will have clothes, food, security. No one will ever harm you again. 2. Retribution. He tapped the screen on Marcus's face. You give me 6 months of your life as my fiancé, and I will hand you Marcus's life on a platter. I will bankrupt him. I will ensure he is the one standing in the snow with nothing. I will let you watch him fall. Cora looked at the tablet. She thought about the laughter through the door, the slush on her legs, the way Marcus had looked at her like she was garbage. She looked up at Seok. He wasn't looking at her like garbage. He was looking at her like a partner, like a queen piece on a chessboard. Is it dangerous? She asked. Extremely, Seok admitted without hesitation. My enemies will target you. My family will despise you. You will have to walk into a room full of wolves and smile. I've been dealing with wolves my whole life, Cora murmured. They just dress differently. She stood up, ignoring the pain in her ankle. She pulled the black silk shirt tighter around herself. She felt a strange thrill coursing through her veins, not fear, but power. For the first time in years, she wasn't the victim. She had a weapon. 6 months, Cora said. 6 months, Seok agreed, and Marcus loses everything. Down to the last penny. Cora held out her hand. Deal. Seok looked at her hand, then up at her eyes. A flicker of genuine respect crossed his face. He took her hand. His grip was warm, rough, and electric. Deal, he said. He didn't let go of her hand. Now, go finish your breakfast. My tailor will be here in an hour. If you are to be the fiancé of Seok Namgung, you cannot wear my shirt forever. He turned to walk away, but paused. And Cora. Yes? That bruise on your face, he said, his voice low and terrifyingly soft. The man who did that was found by the police this morning. He will not be walking for a very long time. Seok walked out of the room, leaving Cora standing in the sunlight of the glass castle, her heart hammering against her ribs like a war drum. She looked out at the city that had chewed her up and spit her out. Get ready, New York, she thought, a fierce smile touching her lips. I'm coming back. The mirror didn't reflect Cora, the waitress, anymore. The woman staring back was a stranger, a dangerous, breathtaking stranger. 3 months had passed since New Year's Eve. 3 months of etiquette lessons, language tutors, and learning how to walk in heels that cost more than a Honda Civic. Cora adjusted the strap of her gown. It was a deep, midnight blue silk that clung to her curves like liquid night, slit high up the thigh to reveal a diamond garter. You are shaking, a voice came from the doorway. Cora turned. Seok stood there, fastening the cufflinks of his tuxedo. He looked devastating. If he was handsome in the alley and commanding in the penthouse, here, dressed for the Lunar New Year Gala, he looked like a god of war taking a night off. I'm not shaking, Cora lied, smoothing the silk over her hips. I'm vibrating with anticipation. Seok walked into the room. The space between them had changed over the last 90 days. It was charged, electric with things left unsaid. They had played the role of lovers for the paparazzi, for his business partners, for the world. But behind closed doors, the lines were beginning to blur. He knew how she took her coffee, black 2 sugars. She knew he had insomnia and watched old French films at 3 a.m. He stopped in front of her, his eyes dark and unreadable. He reached out, his knuckles brushing her collarbone as he adjusted a diamond necklace that sat heavily against her skin. Tonight is the test, Seok said quietly. The Choi family will be there. The elders will be watching. And... He paused, his jaw tightening. I received confirmation. Marcus will be there. Cora's breath hitched. Marcus? His father is desperate. The embargoes I placed on their shipping containers have bled them dry. They are attending the Gala to beg for investors, to beg for mercy. Mercy? Cora repeated, tasting the word. Do you want to give it to them? Seok asked, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. Cora thought back to the freezing alley, the laughter, the way Marcus had looked through her. No, she whispered. Seok smirked, a rare, genuine expression that made Cora's knees weak. Good. Then let us go and burn their world down. The gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, specifically in the Temple of Dender Wing. It was an ocean of old money, dangerous money, and political power. Waiters moved like ghosts with trays of champagne, and the air hummed with the sound of a string quartet playing a haunting rendition of a pop song. When Seok and Cora entered, the room didn't just go quiet. The atmosphere physically shifted. Seok Namgung, the dragon of the East Coast, walking hand in hand with a stunning, unknown black woman. The whispers started immediately, like the hissing of snakes. Cora kept her chin high, her hand gripping Seok's forearm. She felt the tension in his muscles. He was coiled, ready to strike, his eyes scanning every corner of the room. Chin up, Yagam, he murmured against her ear, his breath hot. You are the queen here. Look at them like you own them. Cora took a breath and channeled every ounce of anger and pride she had. She looked around the room, meeting the gaze of an older Korean man who was glaring at her. She didn't flinch. She smiled, a cold, polite smile, and the man looked away first. Excellent, Seok praised. They moved through the crowd, Seok introducing her as his fiancée. Cora played the part perfectly. She laughed at the right moments, spoke snippets of the Korean phrases she had learned, and charmed the wives of powerful bankers. Then she saw him. Marcus was standing near the bar, looking disheveled. His suit was ill-fitting, he'd lost weight, and his face was pale. He was arguing with a waiter about a drink tab. Standing next to him was Vanessa, the girl from New Year's Eve. She looked bored, scrolling on her phone, ignoring Marcus's frantic whispering. Cora stopped. Seok stopped with her. Marcus turned and froze. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. Cora? He gasped, the sound of his voice, once the center of her universe, now sounded pathetic, small. He stepped over the broken glass, ignoring the waiter's protest. Cora? Is that... Oh, my God. He looked her up and down, his eyes bulging. He looked at the diamonds, the silk, the way she held herself. Then his eyes snapped to Seok, and recognition dawned. The color drained from his face completely. You, Marcus stammered, looking between them. You're with Namgung? Hello, Marcus, Cora said. Her voice was steady, smooth as velvet. But Marcus tried to laugh, but it came out as a choke. Cora, babe, what is this? You disappeared. I was worried sick about you. Worried? Cora raised an eyebrow. Funny? I seem to recall you worrying more about your vibe while I was freezing on the pavement." "That was a misunderstanding," Marcus said, stepping closer, reaching for her arm. "I was drunk. I didn't mean it. Cora, listen, you have to talk to him. My dad's business. We're being crushed. You know I love you, right? You can fix this." Before his fingers could graze her skin, a hand clamped onto Marcus's wrist. It wasn't a hold. It was a vice. Seok didn't even look at Marcus's hand. He looked into Marcus's eyes, his expression bored, terrifyingly calm. "Do not," Seok said, his voice low enough that only they could hear. "Touch my wife." Marcus whimpered, dropping to his knees as Seok applied pressure to a pressure point in the wrist. "Please," Marcus squeaked. "Mr. Namgung, we are ruined. Please." Seok released him with a shove. Marcus scrambled back, clutching his wrist. Vanessa had already disappeared into the crowd, abandoning him just as he had abandoned Cora. "You are not ruined because of bad luck, Marcus," Seok said, loud enough for the nearby circle of elites to hear. "You are ruined because you lack honor. You threw a diamond into the trash, thinking it was glass. Now you pay the price." Seok turned to Cora. "Shall we?" Cora looked down at Marcus. He was sweating, terrified, a boy in a man's world. She felt nothing, no love, no hate, just indifference. "Goodbye, Marcus," she said. She turned and walked away, Seok's hand warm on the small of her back. The victory was sweet, intoxicating, but as they moved toward the terrace, Cora felt a tremble in her hands. "You okay?" Seok asked, guiding her out into the cool night air of the museum terrace. I don't know," Cora admitted. She leaned against the stone railing, looking out at the park. It felt good, but it also felt scary. "You destroyed his life for me." Seok moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. It was a gesture of intimacy that went beyond their contract. "I destroyed his life because he insulted what is mine," Seok murmured, burying his face in the crook of her neck. "And you are mine, Cora, aren't you?" Cora's heart hammered. This was the line. The contract said 6 months, but his lips were on her neck, and his body was hard against hers, and she knew with terrifying clarity that she didn't want the 6 months to end. She turned in his arms, facing him. "Seok." He looked down at her, his eyes searching hers. For the first time, the mask of the Mafia king slipped. There was longing there, hunger. He leaned in, his hand cupping her cheek. Cora closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. Crack. The sound wasn't champagne popping. It was the sharp, distinct crack of a high-velocity round hitting stone. A chunk of the railing inches from Cora's head exploded into dust. Seok's reaction was instantaneous. He didn't flinch. He moved. He shoved Cora down, covering her body with his own as a second shot pinged off the stone wall behind them. "Down!" he roared. Chaos erupted inside the museum. Screams. Breaking glass. "They're here," Seok growled, pulling a sleek black handgun from the inside of his tuxedo jacket. He dragged Cora behind a large stone statue of an Egyptian pharaoh. "Who?" Cora screamed, clutching his lapels. "The Choi clan. They didn't wait for the wedding." Seok checked the magazine, his face a mask of cold, lethal focus. He looked at Cora. "Listen to me. We have to move. The terrace is exposed." "They're shooting at us." "They are shooting at me," Seok corrected. "But they will kill you to get to me. Can you run in those heels?" Cora looked at her strappy stilettos. She reached down, unbuckled them, and kicked them off. She stood up, barefoot on the cold stone, just like that night in the alley. But this time, she wasn't alone. "I can run," she said, her eyes fierce. "Good girl." Seok grabbed her hand. "On my mark, low, fast." More shots rang out, chipping the statue. Men in black tactical gear were rappelling down from the roof of the museum. Now! They sprinted. Seok moved with terrifying grace, firing 3 shots behind him without looking. A cry of pain echoed from the roof. They burst back into the main hall, which was a stampede of terrified socialites. Seok didn't let go of Cora's hand. He used the crowd as cover, weaving through the screaming mass. "The exit is blocked!" Seok shouted over the noise. "We have to go down! The maintenance tunnels!" They reached a service door. Seok kicked it open, revealing a dark concrete stairwell. He ushered her in, then turned back, firing 2 shots into the chest of a man rushing them with a knife. The man dropped. Seok slammed the door and locked it. The silence in the stairwell was deafening after the chaos above. Seok turned to Cora. He was breathing hard, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. He holstered his gun and grabbed her shoulders, his eyes scanning her frantically. "Are you hit? Is there blood?" "I'm fine," Cora gasped, adrenaline coursing through her. "I'm fine. Seok, that wasn't a warning. They were trying to kill you." "They made a mistake," Seok said, his voice dropping to a growl that vibrated in the small space. His eyes were black pits of fury. He pulled her close, hugging her so tightly her ribs ached. "They attacked when you were with me. They endangered you." He pulled back, framing her face with his hands. "I will burn the entire city to ash for this." Cora looked at him. This wasn't just an employer protecting an asset. This was a man terrified of losing the woman he loved. "Seok," she whispered, "we're in this together. Get us out." Seok nodded, the mask returning, but his thumb grazed her lip one last time. "I will get you out," he promised, "and then the Choi clan will learn why they call me the dragon." He took her hand. "Come, the night is far from over." They descended into the darkness, leaving the glittering world of the Gala behind. Stepping fully into the underworld where only the ruthless survived. And Cora realized, as she ran barefoot through the dark tunnels holding the hand of a killer, that she wasn't looking for a way out anymore. She was exactly where she belonged. The maintenance tunnels opened up into the freezing air of a loading dock in the meatpacking district. Seok's security detail was already there, a convoy of black SUVs idling with their lights off. Seok didn't wait for the door to be opened. He practically threw Cora into the back of the armored vehicle and climbed in after her. "The airstrip," Seok barked at the driver. "Get the Gulfstream ready. Flight plan to Zurich." "Zurich?" Cora gasped, her chest heaving. She was barefoot, her silk dress ruined by grease and tunnel water, shivering violently. "Seok, what are you talking about?" Seok grabbed a first aid kit from the console. He ripped open an antiseptic wipe. There was a graze on his cheek from a bullet fragment, bleeding sluggishly, but he ignored it. He grabbed Cora's feet, inspecting them for cuts from the run. "You are leaving," he said, his voice hard, devoid of the warmth she had felt on the balcony. "Tonight, you go to Switzerland. I have a chalet there. Guards, you will stay there until this is over." "Until what is over?" Cora yanked her foot away. "You're going to war." "I am already at war," Seok shouted, the sudden volume making the driver flinch. He turned to her, his eyes wild. "They shot at you, Cora. At you. The deal is void. The contract is over. I cannot have you in the line of fire." "So you're firing me?" Cora yelled back, adrenaline overriding her fear. "You're just going to ship me off like a package because things got real?" "I am saving your life." Seok grabbed her shoulders, his grip bruising. "You do not understand these people. The Choi clan does not stop. They will burn my house. They will bomb my cars. If you stay, you die. I will not watch you die." The car sped through the red lights of the city. The New Year's celebrations were still going on outside. Happy people oblivious to the violence in the black car speeding past them. Cora looked at Seok. She saw the terror in his eyes. It wasn't fear for himself. He was a man who welcomed death. It was fear for her. She reached up and grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "I have nothing in Zurich," she said clearly. "I have no life there. My life is here. With you?" "Cora!" "No, listen to me," she interrupted. "You picked me because I was a fighter. You picked me because I survived the cold. If you send me away now, the Choi clan wins. They'll know they got to you. They'll know I'm your weakness." Seok froze. "But if I stay," Cora whispered, stroking his thumb. "If I stand next to you while you burn them down, then I'm not a weakness. I'm a statement." Seok stared at her for a long, agonizing minute. The car hit a bump, jostling them, but he didn't blink. He saw the resolve in her dark eyes, a steel that matched his own. He exhaled, a ragged sound. He tapped the partition. "Change of plans," Seok said, his voice dropping to a lethal calm. "Go to the warehouse." The warehouse was a fortress in Queens. Inside, Seok's lieutenants were already assembling. Weapons were being loaded onto tables, automatic rifles, tactical vests, suppressors. Cora sat on a crate, a medic wrapping her feet. She was given a pair of combat boots and a thick tactical jacket that swallowed her frame. She watched Seok command the room. He was terrifyingly efficient, outlining the assault on the Choi stronghold. He walked over to her. He checked the magazine of a pistol and handed it to her. "Do you know how to use this?" "I grew up in a rough neighborhood, Seok," Cora said, checking the safety. "But I've never shot a person." "Aim for the center of mass," Seok said. "But you will not need to. You stay in the car. My best men will guard you. I am going inside to cut the head off the snake." "Come back to me," she said. Seok leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a soft kiss. It was a promise, sealed in blood. "I always pay my debts." He turned and walked into the night. The next 2 hours were the longest of Cora's life. She sat in the armored SUV, listening to the crackle of the radio. Gunfire, explosions, voices shouting in Korean. She gripped the pistol so hard her knuckles turned white. Then silence. The radio crackled. "Target neutralized. The Dragon is secure." Cora let out a sob she didn't know she was holding. The rear door of the warehouse opened. Seok walked out. He was covered in dust and blood, none of it his own. He walked straight to the car, opened the door, and pulled Cora into his arms. He buried his face in her hair, breathing in her scent, washing away the smell of death. "It is done," he whispered. "The East Coast is ours." 1 year later. The snow was falling gently on New York City, dusting the skyscrapers in white powder. The Namgung Tower was glowing. The penthouse was filled with the soft hum of jazz and the clinking of crystal. It was an intimate gathering, only the most trusted lieutenants and business partners. Cora stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the city. She wasn't wearing a borrowed shirt or a cheap sequined dress. She was wearing a custom-made gown of white velvet that pooled around her feet. Her hair was styled in intricate braids woven with pearls. On her finger sat a diamond so large it caught the light from across the room. Thinking about the past? Cora smiled and turned. Seok was walking toward her. He looked different than he had a year ago. The tension that used to live in his shoulders was gone. He looked like a king who sat comfortable on his throne. He handed her a glass of champagne. "I was thinking about the alley," Cora admitted. "About the girl with the broken shoe." "I think about her too," Seok said, stepping close, wrapping an arm around her waist. "I owe her everything." Cora looked down at the street below. "I heard Marcus is working at a car wash in Jersey." Seok took a sip of his drink, his eyes gleaming with dark amusement. "Is he? I wouldn't know. I don't keep track of insects." Cora laughed, a rich, genuine sound that filled the room. "You liar! You made sure he couldn't get a job anywhere in the city." "Perhaps," Seok shrugged. "I am a possessive man, Cora. You know this." The countdown began on the television screens. The ball was dropping in Times Square. 10, 9. Seok set his glass down. He turned Cora to face him. 8, 7. "1 year ago, we made a deal," Seok said softly. 6 months, a fake engagement. 6, 5. "The contract expired 6 months ago," Cora whispered, her heart beating fast. 4, 3. Seok reached into his pocket. He didn't pull out a ring. She already had that. He pulled out a folded piece of paper, the contract they had signed. 2. He held it up. He took a gold lighter from his pocket and flicked it open. He touched the flame to the paper. 1. "Happy New Year, Yagam," Seok said as the paper curled into ash and floated to the floor. "No more contracts, no more pretending, just us." "Happy New Year, Seok," Cora said. Outside, the fireworks exploded, painting the sky in gold and red. But neither of them looked out the window. Seok captured her lips in a kiss that tasted of champagne and forever. The girl who had been thrown out like trash was gone. In her place stood the Queen of New York, safe in the arms of the dragon who had burned the world down just to keep her warm.